What's up, guys, and welcome back to the doctor's office. I am Dr. Kaori Knight, here to give you a proper diagnosis and prognosis and everything comics and comic book characters. And we are still in Black History Month. It may be the last day, but we are still there. So you already know what I'm about to do. Comic book characters you may or may not know about, Black History Month edition. Today we are talking about Ira Sinril, aka Fatality, from DC Comics. Now, Ira was from the planet Xanshi, and her claim to fame was at being part of the royal family. She was basically one of the only one, and as the oldest child actually of the royal family, she was the only one who was able to be combat trained, and she was sent to train off-world and receive an education off-world, and she was the only one to do so. She went to the warlords of Okara around the same time period as Starfire. Now, while the girl was out there getting her education, her planet was completely destroyed. And she was, of course, as she should have been, very upset about that. But what made her even more upset was the fact that she learned that the destruction of her planet was due to an error by a Green Lantern. So, against the warlord's basically like orders and advice, she decided to leave, became Fatality, and decided to hunt down every single sentient being that was a Green Lantern or once had been a Green Lantern. And basically her plan was to eradicate the Green Lanterns just like they eradicated her planet. So amongst all of the Green Lanterns that she did kill, she managed to kill Stell and Gallius Zed. She says that she's killed over 100, but it's not really confirmed how many Green Lanterns she's actually killed. Now, at the time of her crusade, the Green Lanterns were going through several crises. They were going through upheaval. So at this point, she was only left with people who had been previous Green Lanterns. So like essentially they didn't even have rings anymore. So she finally tracked down a final ring bearer to Earth, and it was Kyle Rayner. My baby. And she started fighting with Kyle using her usual tactics. Using her usual tactics, but she realized that his ring didn't work like the other ones, so she ended up having to retreat. Now, Kyle thought that she was after the other Green Lanterns, so he went to go find John Stewart. Unbeknownst to anybody else, the reason Xanshi got blown up was because the arrow was by John. Okay. However, this was kind of part of her plan. She was actually still after Kyle. And then she just tracked him down and stole his power battery. And the three of them ended up getting, well, it was actually her and Kyle ended up getting into a fight after she took his power battery. And she basically she changed tactics and went on the offensive, and she beat Kyle that time and was escaping with his power battery. He ended up getting saved by John Stewart, and she thought like, maybe if I go into the void, they'll lose power as they're chasing her for the power battery. However, he managed to have enough juice to shoot her ship down, and they landed on this like other planet while she still had his battery, and this was before he just lost power. The two of them actually ended up fighting on the planet, and they were both badly wounded, and she was able to win this fight, but they ended up getting attacked by a tentacle monster. And as they're about to be killed, he's literally asking her for his power battery, and she's saying no because she would rather that both of them die than she save him. However, he was able to save himself, get his power battery, and leave. He was not able to save her, and the only thing that was left of her was her left arm. So sometime later, she tracked down John Stewart and was going to attack him and kidnap him. However, she had to fight John Stewart, Moraine, and Jade, as well as an intervening Kyle. But the reason she was going after John was because Kyle was dumb enough at the time of their fight to explain what was going on, and that the mistake with the error that caused Xanshi to blow up was John's. So while she beat up beat them up. She kidnapped John so that she could execute him. She was able to get him alone elsewhere and try to execute him, but they ended up showing up to fight her again. She defeated Jade and took her ring, and then her and Kyle engaged in a fight of Green Lantern power, and then John Stewart interfered and like released this gigantic burst of Green Lantern energy, which blew her away. However, it also caused him to lose the feeling in his legs, so like temporary paralysis, which actually is hysterical. Like, he was literally being like a hypochondriac because he felt guilty about what happened with Xanshi. Later on, she ended up coming back with a Green Lantern-like ring that was like making yellow constructs, but it wasn't necessarily a yellow lantern ring. And she also had another weapon she was using, and it was a test weapon for Nero, and she wasn't really efficient in either one. So she ended up going up against Kyle, who was able to like blow through her constructs and ended up defeating her. And the Cordians who had given her the ring basically blew up her remaining arm, her right arm, and took the ring back. She was only saved because Kyle was able to get her to a hospital. Now, she ended up being imprisoned at the Slab, which was like a prison for metahumans, and they tried to do psychotherapy with her, but because of her savage temper, it just was not working. John Stewart did continue to visit her, again feeling guilty, and he kept trying to talk to her, but she kept taunting him about the whole situation and making sure that his anxiety and his guilt kept eating away at him. However, she is the one that revealed to him that there was literally nothing wrong with his fucking legs. She was like, you lost the feeling in your legs and became paralyzed because you felt guilty. She was like, but your spine is intact, because she has the ability to like see weaknesses and things like that. She was like, your spine is fine. There's nothing wrong with your legs. Stand up. And the reason she did this is because when she knew that she was going to get out of there, she wanted to defeat John Stewart as a whole and not as a cripple, because what would be the honor in that? Now, later on, she was given a Cordian power ring and became part of the Sinestro Corps, and she fought in the Sinestro Corps Wars. And after that, she actually got captured by the Zamarans. They encased her in crystal, hoping to heal the hatred in her heart and turn it into love. And when the Guardians paid a visit to Zamarin, she emerged from the crystal as a star sapphire. And the very first thing she did was ask for her power ring to locate John Stewart. John Stewart was over where the remains of Xanshi were, and he was contemplating what was going on. There was also the Green Lantern War that was happening against the Orange Lantern Corps, but she was able to separate John Stewart from there so that she could talk to him. Basically, she was like, I've changed, you know, the Star Sapphires changed me. I realized that everything that happened to me and to what was going on with my planet and the hatred that I had for you was misplaced. And the fact is, I need to forgive myself for what happened to Xanshi, because had I been there, I don't think it would have happened. Before leaving, she told him the next time that he decides that he's going to mourn Xanshi, he needs to forgive himself as well. So she left him in time to get back to Zamarin when the Sinestro Corps arrived, because they were coming to take their female members back. And even though she was one of them, she had already been converted into a Star Sapphire, unlike the others. Now, the fight between the Zamarins and the Sinestro Corps was interrupted by the events of Blackest Night. And the Zamarins ended up fleeing Zamaron because the lovers that powered their battery had been turned into Black Lanterns. Xanshi was also reanimated, and then she ended up joining an ad hoc team of all the different Lanterns, which included Kilowog and John Stewart, and they were defending Star City or Coast City, whichever city it was where Blackest Night's final battle takes place. And it was at that point in time where Xanshi had blown up and the remains were literally raining down on Earth. It's really gross, actually. Now, after like New 52 had started, she was sent to go confiscate the ring of Star Sapphire number 22, who had been murdered. And they found that the ring was in the sector 2814, which was Earth, and Kyle Rayner had it in his possession, as well as other power rings. And everybody was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, but all of that was cut short by the fight with the first Lantern. Now, after leaving the New Guardians, where she ended up pursuing her relationship with John Stewart, basically becoming like his partner. Now, sometime later, she ended up being kidnapped by a group called the Durans, and when she was kidnapped by them, she lost her power ring. And at that point in time, she said that she never actually loved John Stewart, even though they were on dates, they were sleeping together on different planets, like they were the couple, okay? And she said that she never loved him, and of course that broke his fucking heart. And she said that she had two enemies, the Star Sapphires for making her forget all of the hatred she had for this man, and John himself. Now, she had a very deep-seated hatred for Kyle Rayner, just because Kyle Rayner was the first Green Lantern that she encountered that was actually still a Green Lantern, but he was a Green Lantern different from the other Green Lanterns that she had faced. So she just had a standing hatred for Kyle for just those reasons. Then of course she had her reasons for hating John Stewart, and then I feel like she's upset with the Star Sapphires because they actually made her look into herself and forgive herself, like what her actual thoughts were. Forgive yourself for not being there, and also at the point of forgive John, and then John also needs to forgive himself. So like, you're getting mad because they're telling you what it is that you needed to listen to and hear. Now, as for her abilities, with her Star Sapphire ring, she was able to travel through space. So she had flight and space travel. She had energy blast, shield, different constructs. She was able to surround herself or others with like sapphire crystals. She had teleportation as well as heart tethers, healing, heart prophecies. And then with her Xantian physiology, she had enhanced stamina, strength, agility, reflexes, and she could find shatter points. Now, y'all already know how I feel about DC characters. DC does not like black people for real. So that whole situation between her and John, I think that she should have stayed a Star Sapphire. Them taking her out of being a Star Sapphire just to go back to her being hateful is an odd choice to me, because she seemed definitely more at peace with the fact that she understood what happened was an error. It's not that he did it on purpose. And while of course she is grieving for her people, she understood that he was also feeling really guilty about what happened. He was supposed to be there to protect them, and he failed in doing so. But it was an error on his part. And you can be mad at someone, but you can also understand like what happened. And when she was a Star Sapphire, she was able to actually not be blinded completely by rage and see that it was a fucking error. And then they took that from her and she just became hateful again. What is the point of her being so hateful? Because at that point, when she's hateful, she's completely useless. Like her teaming up with Major Force to break out of the slab, and he wanted to go after Kyle. Your hatred for Kyle is crazy, because he's not operating in the same manner as the Green Lanterns that you killed before, but Major Force also had some weird hatred for Kyle Rayner too. So it was really odd. And I hope that if they do bring her back, that she's actually, like, her coming back actually makes sense. Like, she was part of the secret society. Not for any particular reason. It was when she was not a Star Sapphire, and she hated Kyle and the Green Lanterns that much that she became part of the secret society. Oh my god. Like, come on. Most of her time spent just being absolutely hateful, just for her to turn into a Star Sapphire and actually be useful, and actually like her and John being this like power couple and actually doing things in the universe as the Lanterns are supposed to do, and you snatched that away from her. For what? I beg you. But anyway. That is this episode of The Doctor's Office.